I'm Lavonne Suwalski, and I hope you join me today to do a painting watercolor of skies and rocks and trees and a little bit of foliage or whatever we will add in this one. The painting is going to be done in watercolor, and the first thing I'm going to start, well, I have my picture hooked to my board. I have it hooked with a blue tape. This is a painter's tape. One is it comes off very easily off the paper, and two, you can see where the picture is going to begin and end, where otherwise it would just blend into the board. The watercolors I use come in a tube form, and then I squeeze them into the container, into the little palette, and then when I start every day, you can put a little shot of water, a little squirt of water in them if you want. Maybe add a little fresh paint. Usually add a little fresh paint's even better, but I did that earlier, so I don't have to be bothered with that now. So a little bit of water and let it set. Now I'm going to use, on this picture, I've done it many times. I've been up in the mountains and walking through the woods and things, and I've seen a lot of these kind of rock formations. The first thing that I do is I decide where I'm going to place the most important object. And today I'm going to place it right in this area. I take the width of the paper and go over, and so it's going to be in this area. So I'm going to place a tree right up in this area and come out with this pine tree. And very simple. When I draw, I use a type of drawing. It's contour drawing. I follow the edge of the side of something. So I just go down. I'm going to have this contour drawing. Oh, that's looking good. I feel like I have to be my own cheerleader sometimes. I think that's true when you paint. And I'm going to have some other little bits of foliage and undergrowth right in here. So that's going to be very simple. This is a very simple picture, and just a little bit of detail. Now, I'm going to do my sky wet and wet. That means that I am going to take and wet the paper. Before I do that, I'm going to mix up some sky color, which is going to be ultramarine blue, or one of the other beautiful blues if you have one you like. Cobalt is also a nice one you can mix with this. I'm going to mix this blue, and then I'm going to put a little bit of burnt sienna in it. And I've just wanted, now I said I want to gray it, but I grayed it a little bit too much. So it's like when you make sometimes you have to add a little more sugar to the coffee or the creamer, and you mix it until it becomes the color that you like. This is getting really close to the color I like for the sky. It's kind of a gray blue. If you wanted to add a little bit of a pink to it, you could do that too, but very little. And it's really getting to be a good color right now. Now I'm going to take my brush. Now I have a bucket of water. I have my palette with my paints on it, which are usually tube colors, and I have a sponge that I'm wiping things off on. And then I always have a towel that you can put over your shoulder. You can put it down and wipe, or I call this my little granny square that I put right there. That way I can wipe in case I need to. Now, when I do wet and wet sky, first thing I do, I tape my paper down. If you're kind of not as neat as you should be, like myself, I'm going to probably drip right down. You could put a little bit of extra tape at the bottom. If this is an edge, you can actually tape the bottom, and this is going to have a beautiful border. And that way the paint won't be running down, and it'll be easier to put a mat on it. So now I'm going back. I'm going to wet my sky 3 times. I go right through the bushes, right through the trees. 3 times. This is I haven't even made it the first time. I should use a bigger brush. Okay, get down there. I have to sort of stand at an angle when I'm doing this to see how wet it is, because of course the water is just leaves a gloss on it. So this is looking good too. Now I'll do a third time. I paint at an angle like this. Most of the time I paint at an angle, not always quite as severe as this. Sometimes I take my palette and I will lay it back so that I don't have quite as much of a runoff. And when you do this, you also can pick up your drips along the way with a thirsty brush. That is a damp brush that has been wiped off, and you can just pick up your drips. Now I'm going to go in, take this wonderful sky color, and let's go in. Ah, beautiful. Not dark enough for me, though. I think I put so much water on it that I need to add a little more paint. I'm going to hold on a minute and go up to the top of the sky. Still a little more color. The more water you have it, it's like you have the water already on the paper. So let's go in and do the sky coming through. And you can see, I told you I can miss the edge of things very easily. Now when I go back in and get more paint, I always start back at the top because I want that to be the darkest part of the sky is directly overhead. I would rather have it become softer as it goes back in the distance. So I'll start at the top and work my way across the sky. And these can be clouds. They can become more closer together as they get further back into the distance. And then I can put a little more up in here, and then I'm going to make a couple cloud holes, a couple little holes in the clouds. Now, I like the looks of the sky. It feels very wet, very, like it's a day with maybe a little mist in the air. If you don't like that kind of thing, you can also go in and take your little bit of a tissue and you can go in and lift this. You have to do this when it's wet or damp, and you just go in and lift your color and maybe bring some of this cloud back to a whiter kind of a tone value and make it show up a little bit whiter. That is totally up to you. You might have put it on and love the way it looks, and that's great. I'm going to also take my thirsty brush right now, and I'm going to wipe it and just pick up my drips. Okay. Now, as this is drying, then that's probably the problem of watercolor. You have to wait a few minutes, let things happen. If I want to, I could actually add a little bit more of the brown, the burnt sienna, and the blue, and I can make a gray color. So if I want to go underneath in some of these clouds, I can actually go underneath and make a little bit of a gray. That is very brown in the gray, but I'm going to take my brush. Again, I'm going to take it. I think I'll take a little bit smaller brush this time. I started with a pretty good size brush. These are called flats that I like to use, 1 strokes. And that's one of my favorite brushes to use. I'm going to take this and I'm going to take this and just, now this is all wet, I'm going to go in and I'm going to take the brush and just move it around just a little bit so that it moves it right into this cloud and gives it maybe the feeling of a shadow underneath. Again, if you love the way your clouds look, you don't have to do this. But if you want to, sometimes it just gives another little dimension to what's going on. There. Now I gotta go back, pick up some drips. There. And put this down. Now the next thing, and I'm gonna jump around just a little bit because the sky is so wet. If I start doing the foliage, it's gonna be just going right up into the sky. So I am going to take and mix up my rock color. I'm going to put some rocks in here. And the rock color is going to be the same color blue, which is the ultramarine blue. And I'm going to mix it pretty straight ultramarine blue and a little bit of the burnt sienna. And I don't like to overmix it. I want it to look like it's oh, this is going to be really ugly. So let's just go in and put some ugly color here. See, I want you to, I mean, that's, I can even do it without looking at it. Now, that's kind of the fun part. And I'll put some more ugly color right here. And then I'm going, now these are my favorite toys. I have 3 or 4 of them, and I'll show them to you later. This is where I need my little square. I take this tool, this is a palette knife, and you can hold the tool. I put my thumb on one side of it, and I hold it, so I actually am squeegeeing out the rocks. Oh, I love that. Oh, that looks so good. Oh, I hope you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna go up, I'm gonna go down with my arm. I'm gonna go over and bring it down. And if I wanna have a few little twigs coming through here, I just take the tip of this and I go up and through and over here. There. Oh, gosh, that's looking good. Who'd think it would? Just a bunch of ultramarine blue, burnt sienna. Let's have some more rocks up here. And if I want to make them more blue, I can. More of the burnt sienna. It's pretty much up to you what you want to do with them. This one, I can, and I'm going to go back, remind you, you put your thumb on one side, and so you're using it just like it's a squeegee. And the tip of it actually follows the line as best you can that you have created in the beginning. Oh, that's a nice big boulder kind of a thing. So there we go. And if you want, you can soften the edge down here. It's pretty much up to you what you want to do with that. While it's still wet, if I want that to be some grasses in here, I can just go in and just take some of this paint off on the edge. So I've got it nice and soft. Here we go. And it's a clean brush, and I just wipe it off. And then I go in and I can remove some of this and just soften. While it's wet, you can do just about anything to it that you want. And I'll put some weeds or some kind of a vegetation down there. Now I'm going to take, this is probably getting a little dry. A lot of artists, what they do is they take their hand and they put their hand against the picture to see if it's damp enough, if it's cold, to see if they want it if it's dry enough. I can do that. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going back to one of my bigger brushes. Now I like it when things aren't always exactly the same. I like a variety of things in this. So I'm going to take this brush. I could use my squirt bottle as well, but I'm just going to put some water. I'm not paying any attention. I'm just putting some water, just dabbing it on the paper. Not too much, but just a little bit. And then I'm going to take this brush, and this is one of my favorite color combinations. I'm going into a color called Prussian blue. I love this color. It also is very similar to phthalo blue or Windsor blue. There's a lot of blues that are very similar to this. It's very, very strong. Matter of fact, I think I used it in one of the pictures I have over here. There is some phthalo blue mixed in that sky to make it that dark. And I've got the phthalo, and I've got some burnt sienna mixed with it. Again, I'm trying to keep very similar palette. Ooh, that is really something I just mixed. Okay, got it. Now I'm going to take this tree. I don't want it to run into my rock. I'm going to take this tree. I'm taking the side of my brush, and this is what I love about these brushes. They form the most wonderful, I don't know if you can see this right here, but they form the most wonderful line. So I'm going to go right up with this brush. Whoops, I can start right at the top of the tree, work my way down the tree. It's almost like stamping. And now I've got the trunk of the tree. And now I can just I take the edge of the brush Now, some people prefer using a brush called a round for this. This would be a round brush I have right here. And they might prefer this brush to this. It's pretty much what you like using and your preferences for it. I'm going to put these. Here we go. Ah, I think I went a little too far out with that, so you'll see what I'm going to do next. I'm going to put some more color in here, and then this tree would be really lonesome up here, so I'm going to give it a friend. I don't want the friend to be as tall. I want to have it, there was a famous painter who used to call it Mama Bear, Papa Bear, and Baby Bear. So you wanted to have 3 different sizes. Again, it's the variety. I'm just going to dip in some more of this Prussian blue, and see, it ran right into my little rock there. And I'm going to give them, 2 friends are good, but 3 is a nice number. So now this guy, as long as this tree, you don't want all 3 the same height. So I can make this one just a tad taller. So now I'm not even close in height. And I just come out and I go around my rocks and down here. Now I've got 3 trees. Now this is where I have a lot of fun. I'm going to take yellow ochre. And yellow ochre, a lot of people use raw sienna. I love to use the yellow ochre with the Prussian blue. On the mixture I just made, there is not enough of the yellow. It's really very, very more green, and I love to get the more yellow, stronger color in here. And I'm going to take this, got a drip right there. I'm going to take this, and this is, I love doing this. I call them my dobby dobbies. I just go dobby, 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 dob. And this is stuff, lots of stuff. And I can throw some dobby dobbies in here too. It's wet, it's wonderful. Things are just going to happen. And I'm going to put some more green into this so the color varies as, a few little things. I think I've got a few little dobbies, made some drips up there. I may have to add a bird or 2. Okay. And if I want to have more coming down here, I certainly can. It's up to you when you do these. You just kind of play around with them. And I'm going to wipe my brush off. And I've got this ridiculous green blob right there that I'm going to try and lift with just a loose kind of thing. I may have to do this a couple times just to get the green out of there. If I'd been a little more careful, I wouldn't have had that problem. Now, you remember I told you I love these scrapers, and I have, when I love something, I have lots and lots of them. So I have many of these at home, and this is another one. And this is a very inexpensive little palette knife. I like the shape. I think of it as like being a little pizza pie picker-upper for a mouse or something. That little shape. And I love the shape of it. Before I had these, I used to use old credit cards, and I used to cut them up in different shapes and use those. Those work nicely as well, and I have a few other tools that I've come up with. One is my trusty old Girl Scout knife, and the other one is I don't do anything with clams. I think that does clams or oysters or something. It's something I found around the house, and then this does inside of cake batter. So any of these kind of things work beautifully. Another run. I'm going to go in and I'm going to make a tree. This tree is just scraped right out. I use the oyster knife for that, but I can also use any of these if I want to make I love making trees that have fallen already. I don't know why, but I'm going to make a little tree that may have fallen in the woods right there. There it is. Wipe off my little trusty blade and go up and give it a few little twigs off of it. Whoa! Gosh, that's looking good. And I have a bunch of rules that I think are funny that I have come up with when you paint. One of them is be your own cheerleader. So I'm afraid that you've got to be your own cheerleader because there's nobody here going yay, yay, yay. So your painting loves to hear that. And I'm going to go in and pull up that. There's a drip right there, And over here I have one. I'm just going to lift it and come in and do this. And this one as well. I may have to add another little tree down there. Sometimes that's where I get my trees, is because I have to add something to it. Now, this is getting pretty good. It's almost dry, and I'm going to go in. And now I went from this size brush to this size brush. Now I am going in and I'm going to pull up something a lot smaller. Oh, this is good. This is a great little brush. And I'm going in with my burnt sienna. And I'm just going to make a few little twigs coming up from in front of this. And I'm going to also take, I have another brush that is similar right here. And I can take this is just clean water on it, and I can I'm tapping it, and I tap it, and what it's going to do is it's going to texturize the trees a little bit so that they don't become just, it's going to look like little leaves and stuff in there. If you could see close up, it's starting right now. Some people like to use table salt to do that as well. I prefer just hitting it with water, and I tap it. And I know it seems really kind of funny, but I've got it down to where what I do is I put the brush right in at the bottom of my little finger, and then I take and I close my 3 fingers on it, leaving the pointing finger out, and then I use that for tapping. So I'm way down at the end of the brush. And there's where I really like these brushes a lot. They, the hair coming out of the ferrule is really long, so they have a nice spring to them. They used to be used, I heard, for sign painters back in like years ago, before they used to make signs and computers, and this is what they used to use them for. You can do calligraphy with them as well. So I just find that they're a really nice brush for a lot of things. And I'm going to go in, add some more of my yellow ochre in here. I'm going to have some things in front of this dead tree that's down, because I don't want it to look like it's just sitting there. And there, you know, this rock and I are just having a little issue. There. I'm going to go in front over here. Let's get some stuff going over here too. More of my dobbies. Here we go. And back over here, I'll put a little tree over there. Now, I have a tree that came up right there. This part was scraped, and it looks like a negative of a tree coming up. But when it gets into the sky, it should become a positive tree. So I'm going to take a little bit of the brown and the burnt sienna, which is a brown tone, and a little bit of the blue together, mix them together, and I'm going to continue on where my tree is and give it a few. That doesn't want to do. You know, it's so much easier when I'm working flatter sometimes, because gravity does not like to do these kind of things sometimes. So I'm giving this a few branches so it comes out and will look like this tree did this here. I did the same here. And then I have this movement I love doing. I just love doing this. I don't know why. I love to go up and down a few times. It looks like there's something over here. I don't know what it is, but it looks like something. And let's get some more trees over here. And I was going to do something in here. Let's see. This is starting to look pretty good. Down in here, I was going to add some nice greens and have maybe some grasses growing out here. There's some kind of a weed thing. See, and I'm using the brush. I'm not sitting there going brush, brush. I'm doing a few things, and then I let some of this just look like the way it really does in nature, hopefully. And put a little splash of color in there. Let's do some over here too, a few little things. Go for my blue again. This is all the brushes that I've used today, most of the brushes, I can't say all, but most of them have been of that same type with the very long bristles, which allow me to be able to throw a little bit of water on them or create different effects. I probably have a couple hundred brushes, so I have quite a variety of them. And but it's good when you get one or two that will do multitask, so you're not having to, you know, when you're out painting or when I'm here, that I don't have to carry 100 brushes with me. I can just carry one or two, and they will do most of the work. Okay. Let's get some more color in here. I'm just going to bring some color in so it doesn't look like we have white floating in here. Get some color in over here as well. I'm just mixing up some little stuff. And if I want, as I'm doing this, I've actually gone in. Now that was a dark edge in there. I've actually gone in a couple times, and I've actually lifted into, if I could pinpoint an area right in here, I'll do it right in maybe this area here, which is very, very dark. But I can get in, and if I go up a few times, I will actually lift the color beneath, so I get this look like the weeds are going right through it. And now, I love to get in toward the end and really crank up a little bit of strong darks. And I'm going down this tree, and let's get something really dark here. So you'll want to look at this tree. This tree is going to yell, look over here. I am the #1 tree. And so I'm going in, and I'm darkening some of these areas. Right here, 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 here. And also, what this does is I'm building up a shape of darks throughout this so that it will be a little stronger. Now, I always love to do this. I've used the burnt sienna throughout the picture. And the burnt sienna is basically like my red, that I am mixing the red with the greens. There's a little bit of it here and a little bit of it there. But if you want to make a little bit more of it, I can do it several ways. I can take a little bit of either red. I'm using straight red this time. I'm using a little bit of an alizarin. And I can hit the red into some of these areas, and it will just be the complementary color that mixes in to my colors, so it makes my greens just a little bit richer being compared. Now the burnt sienna does a similar thing, but sometimes I like just a little bit more than that. And I'm putting a little bit of red right into my green here. And I'm going to go down. That one I want to make a smaller brush and put some nice burnt sienna branches coming up from this little guy here. Another one. Get over here and do something from here. There we go. And this I'd like to come up in maybe a little bit more. And now this tree is a little bit thick. So I'm going to take my brush and it's just damp, and blend my colors out a little bit, just so they soften as they come through here. I've got a little bit of something there. I can do something with this. I'm going to lower this rock because this has driven me crazy since the beginning of painting the picture. And then if I like to, see if I can get some of this off that was dripping through. This can only be done when it is damp. Some of the other things you can do, there are other things that you can do. I can go in like that. And I'm going to now pick this up, pick my drips up down here. Hopefully they did not go under the painter's tape. And then I can take, now this is a few more things here, and then I consider it just about done for now. If I want to, I could throw some shadows coming over the rocks. I could go in and make some of those wonderful lines from many, many, many millions of years ago when the glaciers came through, and give it a few little, cracks in the rocks and things like that. All that kind of detail you'll be able to do with your picture. But I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to make sure I'm just doing this because I know my edges are sopping wet. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the tape off so you'll be able to see what the picture looks like without the tape. Boy, that makes a huge difference when you do that. And I'm just going to move it on. Now, if you tape your picture like I do, make sure that you try not to pull it straight away. It works better if you pull it at an angle, and it works better if you've allowed it to dry a little bit, which I didn't probably do either. But do what I tell you, not what I what I do. This is supposed to be fun and not a lot of hard work. And I've got one more to do over here. And I have a lot of extra tape because I want the picture to stay up when I've got extra on the side when I get done with this, because I want to put a mat on it, and you'll see what it looks like with a mat on it, because every picture looks a lot better with a mat. Okay. Oh, I've got one over here. I'm going to put this down for a sec. Get rid of this for a minute. And then I'm going to put this up. I thought I had a clip right here in my clips. And if I put the picture right in like this, and got another one. I love to repurpose things. So for me, this is a lot of fun. Being able, now it's in the mat, it's in a white mat, and it would look nice in another color mat. Sometimes I like to put them in a mat that has an edge that might be of a different color. I'll show you again, I'll put it right over here so you can see it might look nice with a mat like that. But I just put it in the white mat because I had actually sized it to fit inside the white mat. So, I hope you had some fun watching. I've used a variety of kinds of brushes and paints and everything. And just remember, you need to have fun when you paint and just enjoy. If something drips, change it, move it, add something to it. And I hope that while you're watching and afterwards, that you'll just keep on pushing that brush around.